Hi guys. Well, I'm going to restring my Strat. It's a rainy day here in Toronto. It's just pissing down. So I got to think it's time to put some new strings on this anyway. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to show you a couple of tricks I do to make it easier. One of the problems with restringing guitar with this type of floating trem is when you take the strings off, the trem just goes bang right down, flat, hard-tailed down. And then when you put the strings on, you start to tighten them up. Every time you tighten a string, the one before it goes flat because the bridge is getting pulled up by the gradually increasing string tension. So it might take you 5 or 10 tries of constantly restringing to get it into pitch again. Well, there's a way around it that I like to use, and what I have here is a little block of wood, a little shim, and what I'll do is I'll just tuck it under like that, and that keeps the bridge lifted up so that when I take the strings off, the bridge doesn't go down flat. I have it stuck under here. This is a pretty beat up guitar, so I don't worry about too much if I damage the finish. If that's an issue for you, then just put a little cloth or something underneath it, a thin piece of cloth, to take the whatever abrasion there may be. There's also another way it can be done. You can stick something down there, right down in here, between the block and the body, to do the same thing. I find that's a little harder to do, and because the springs are in the way, and it's hard to get it to sit right because the block and the edge of the body aren't necessarily like this. The block's like that a little bit. So now you got a V-shaped, and you got to get something in there, and it's just I found it was more trouble than it was worth. So I just do it this way. But both are options. So give me a minute. I'm just going to get the strings off it, and then we'll get started. Alrighty, got the strings on it. It's loose, and I always like to make sure I give it a little tug to make sure the ball is seated in the slot properly, and I'll squeeze the saddles together a bit too, because sometimes they'll splay out a little bit and that can cause you problems. So do that. Bring the string, make sure the string is not rubbing up against one of the little studs, because that can cause breakage. Keeping tension on it. We'll bring it up and around the stud. Keeping tension on the string at all times. Come on, you bastard. There we go. Okay. Get my tuner in place. Bring it up to about E. Doesn't matter if it's a little flat or a little sharp at this stage, because you're going to fine tune it later anyway. Okay, so that is that. Down at this end, so like I said, make sure, give it a tug, make sure it's properly seated in the slot down there in the hole, and then give the saddles a little squeeze, make sure they're all lined up properly, at least especially the ones that you're working on. There. Okay, you don't want the string touching the screws there, the height adjustment screws. Doesn't matter if it's a little off center, that's okay, but as long as it's not touching the screws. And then bring it up, and we tie it down. Okay, hang on, I'll set up the camera so you can see what I'm doing at the other end. Okay, now we're set down at the other end. So I'll do like I said, I'll make sure it's seated properly. Just give the saddles will squeeze so they're snug together. Bring it up and put my specs on so I can see. Bring it up and just lay it in the slot. Now what I've done in advance is all the holes in these pegs, I've got them all lined up this way, in line with the nut. So they're not like this and not like that, that way. That way you know exactly where they are. And it makes things a bit easier when you can't see. So, typical way to do this is to slide it through and bend it up and then wind to take up the slack. Well, that's a lot of winding, which I don't like. So what I like to do is I'll bring it up, keep it snug, and then, because I know where that hole is, I can simply wrap it around. I usually go around about 1.5 times. The fewer winds you can do, the better. Then there's less chance of the string going out of tune because of slack. You push it through, give it a snug, and give this side a snug to make sure it's tight, and bend it up, and then just give it a couple winds to bring it up to pitch, and that's it. Then we bring it up to A. I give it a couple of stretches, bring it up again, then we check the D. It's gone down a little flat, so we bring it up. Now even though I have that shim down in the bridge, it's still going to go a bit flat as I add strings because it's going to start to put some flex on the neck. So there's not much you can do about that. But it's a lot easier than trying to constantly fight against the trim. So again, we make sure it's seated properly, make sure the bridge saddles are lined up, put it in a nut. Now we have string trees, so I just put it under the string tree. That helps to keep it set properly, nice and tight. Go around again about 1.5 times, and push the string through, trying to keep tension on it. It's not the easiest thing to do, but it can be done. Alright, and give the string a little snug, bend it up, and then tune it down. I'm keeping, there you can see, I'm keeping tension on the string while I'm tightening it. And I'm lifting it up with my fingers, so I'm keeping tension. You can make that out or not, but so I'm keeping the tension on the bridge so it doesn't slip back down into the hole, and I'm keeping tension on the tuner. Okay. Alright, bring it up to D. Give it a stretch. Now we bring it up to D. And we check these ones. It's gone a little flat. This one's gone a little flat. There we go. Nip off the excess. And then move to the next one. And make sure the saddles are lined up and it's seated again underneath the string tree. And we come around, one, get out of there, and a bit. You hear my son upstairs playing his video game. That was a great old time. Okay, so now we keep the tension on it and tighten. So yeah, it saves a lot of winding and it's quicker. Turn it up to G, stretch. G. Now these ones are staying pretty much in tune now. Go a little bit flat. If I was doing it the old-fashioned way with the bridge flat, letting the string tension pull the bridge up, this thing would be totally out of tune and I'd be fighting it the whole way. So there you have it. That's about it. That's how I like to string my Strat. With the floating trem, it's just makes things a bit easier. Found this out through trial and error. This type of tuner, of loading the tuners. Again, any kind of tuner, whether it's on a Les Paul, a Fender, or Ibanez, whatever. If it has a solid post with a hole through it, this will work. If you got the old school ones with the slotted peg, then of course it's a different thing. Bring the string up about 2 pegs past the thing, cut it off, shove it in the hole and wind it round. Which in my opinion is the best tuners ever. I really like those vintage ones. They're just so easy to work and they stay in tune. I've never had a tuning problem with them in my life. So anyway, that's it. Quick and easy way to string a Strat. Any questions, let me know. Thanks for watching. Oh yeah, one other thing I like to do as well is once I've got it more or less tuned to pitch, put the trem arm in and crank it a bit. It's gone out of tune because I like to make sure it's seated in the nut and in the bridge properly. So give it a few cranks on the trem. Kind of helps that, and then later on when you're using the trem, it's more likely to stay in tune. So yeah, that's just one other little thing I like to do. Okay, thanks for watching.